we go with this week's Midweek Howl. And for all those who don't know, it's the non-paranormal part of the From the Shadows podcast. Thanks for hanging out with me and the Howler. No howl this week? You howled last week.
No, I'm howled out. You know, my head, it's been killing me all day for some reason. And
that's not conducive to a howl.
I could blow a vessel and be out any second now.
Okay, well, we'll try to get this episode in before a blood vessel blows.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So you're always asking, have we heard anything from the fans? So I want to give some shout outs to some stuff we've heard from. So we have a new Patreon subscriber.
Okay.
Cynthia Robbins joined just in time. Who'd you think it was?
I thought it was going to be Misty, so she could say, play Misty for me.
Okay, no. So welcome, Cynthia Robbins. She joined just in time to, I think Phil put up the extra little midweek howl bit we did when you shared the story about Stevie Wonder and Andrew Dice Clay.
Oh, yeah.
Don't give the story away. We want people to go to Patreon and check it out.
There you go.
Check it out, yeah.
See, I'm a bad salesman. Unless you're buying a car, I'm a bad salesman.
Bad salesman. Yeah. So we want to give out a shout out to Cynthia. If you want to check out some of our our Patreon page, go to our Patreon page, go to our website. You can find, good grief. If you go to FromTheShadowsPodcast.com, you can find everything. TikTok. I mean, you ought to do some TikToks before they shut off.
I want the communist Chinese to get my stuff for free. I want them to work. I want them to buy an American company with a Shell LLC and spend some money to get my information. I don't want them to just get it willy-nilly.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
I like those.
Fair enough. Or you can follow.
I'm like those girls. Hey, I'm like those girls back in the day. Remember? I normally don't do this, but since you got me a couple drinks, so.
That's a different. That may be a Patreon episode right there.
Well, anyhow, let's go.
So I want to give a shout out. We were talking about some of our super fans. There are a couple.
Mike from Manitoba, because you know what? I'm going to tell you. My wife asked me the other day, "Who's Mike from Manitoba?" And I said, "Why don't you?" She goes, "Everything you, if you ever put anything on."
Twitter,
Instagram, I guess, because I put so little on anything. He always, and I said, well, that's Mike from Manitoba. He's from Manitoba, Canadian. And she goes, you got a dude from Canada that likes your stuff. And I said, yeah. She said, is he gay? And I said, I don't know, could be. I'm all around all kinds of happy people. I said, if you aren't, you are when you listen to me, because we got a happy show.
That's exactly right. And we're Nita asked me if I had sent out, a couple things we were supposed to give out. I have not sent those out. I'm waiting on the judge to sign a couple pictures before we send them out. So the people who were I don't even remember what we did to give but anyway, another gentleman, we have some really super fans, people that send me stuff on Instagram or Facebook Messenger and stuff, and they're all great people. But I want to give a shout out to Dan the Man Foster from Portland, Oregon. He's definitely a super fan. He listens.
He wants to use his whole name like that.
We are Dan the Man Foster. Dan Foster. Dan the Man.
Yeah, I probably used it. We're gonna have tens of thousands of people looking him up right now.
Good. He should. He's a good dude. He's a good dude. Good hardworking dude out there. He sends me messages every so often, and we go back and forth a little bit. If I have time, I'll talk to, I'll respond to everybody. And I don't want to pretend like I'm so busy I can't. But sometimes when I get messages, it's during a time of the day where I can't. Like if I'm on the mail route or something, I may not get back to it. So, and I got a real nice email then from Greg, and I don't know if this is his last name, but I'm just going to go Greg G. Okay. Send an email. He's a fellow mailman. And he said he loves listening to the show while he's casing up the mail and delivering the mail. And
casing up the mail, is that when you check out what you're going to steal out of there? What do you mean casing up the mail?
Well, that means taking it and putting it in the slots of the address in order.
I used to duck hunt with a guy that was a mail carrier. finished, and I'll tell you some Jerry stories. He's dead now, so I can talk about him.
Okay, but that's all it is. It's just when you case up the mail, it's putting it in order so you can pull it down and deliver it when you get it.
Okay.
You
So
get
you're
it.
putting it in the carrying case.
Put it in the carrying case. And then that ties it. So, well, here's some story. You got some stories to share, but then Greg will enjoy the first story I told you I found that I was going to read because it kind of involves us mailmen. So, what's
the
your
story? No, that's okay. Don't worry about it. Jerry's dead, so he doesn't know if I tell a story this week or next week. Go ahead.
Okay, so I found the story. All right. It says mailed job application returned to woman after nearly 50 years. Okay. A British woman who applied by mail for a job as a motorcycle stunt rider said her application was returned to her after nearly 50 years lost at the post office. Tizzy Hodson, that sounds like a lady who would drive a stunt motorcycle, 70 of Lincolnshire, said she mailed out the application in January of 1976, hoping to land her dream job as a motorcycle stunt rider.
And because it didn't get delivered, she had to be in the roller derby.
No, wait till you hear some of the jobs.
Okay.
Some of the jobs she had. Let's see. She goes, I always wondered why I never heard back about the job. Now I know why. The letter recently arrived in her mailbox with a note at the top saying, late delivery by the Staines post office found behind a drawer only
after
about
50 years.
50 years late.
Surely those guys that wrote that late delivery on there looked at that and go, dude, should we send it? Didn't they?
Well, I'll tell you, I will tell you a story here. What we found one in our post office. So it said, the application's letter return came as a shock. She says how they found me when I've moved house 50 odd times and even moved countries 4 or 5 times is a mystery. It means so much to me to get it back all this time later. I remember very, very clearly sitting in my flat in London typing the letter. Every day I looked for my post, but there was nothing there, and I was so disappointed because I really, really wanted to be a stunt rider on a motorcycle. So she said, failing to land the job didn't curb her daredevil instincts. She went on to perform jobs including being a snake handler, an aerobatic pilot, and a flying instructor. So there you go. So 50 years, they found her after moving. And I didn't see the part where it said she had moved 50 times and even out of the country because we found one, like this kit, like I said, this cases are coming 2 pieces, and if a piece of mail can slip down behind them. And when we moved them, and I bet this is 15 years ago, they found a letter in there from the 40s, maybe 40s or 50s. So it was probably, it was a good 50 years later. And the people, the kids still lived in town. And some of the older guys knew who it was who had mailed. I think it was maybe something that got sent during the war, even during World War II. And so they made sure that some of the family got it back because it was still in our town, and some people, were still living there. So that was amazing. So I thought Greg would appreciate that how we mailmen always deliver, no matter how late. How about that?
There's so much to unpack there. You can feel good if it makes you feel better.
What's there to unpack? Like how about her becoming a snake handler just because she couldn't drive a step motorcycle?
Well, that's the route a lot of single girls take when they're trying to find their way. Works out better for others, some than others. But
you mean she got into being a pastor at a church in Kentucky? Isn't that the ones that handle snakes?
Well, I was thinking of 2-legged snakes, but I was just thinking of how sweet that is. That at that time, how that country has evolved to full circle, from barbarians to wonderful male people that are worried about what did you say, Stansbury post office?
Lincolnshire. I think it was said she was
Lincolnshire
in
post office,
Lincolnshire.
back to
Yeah.
barbarians. That's what I was thinking. How it made a full circle.
Or wasn't that long ago they were killing each other, and now they're making sure that people get their mail 50
Well,
years
I
later.
tell you, my boss told me one time. He said, "You can't even spell deputy sheriff, and now you is one. It's one R, two Fs, two Fs, two R's, and one F, whichever." That always escapes me. I'd look at my badge when I need to write it out. And so I told him, if I need to spell it, I look at my badge.
Oh my gosh. Do you want to share the mailman stories that you had?
Do I want to hear what in that mailman story? Hear another mailman story?
Yeah, about the dead guy. The dead
I
guy.
used to duck hunt a lot with a guy he was the uncle of the guy I hunted with a lot. And as we started killing a lot of birds, he said one day, "Hey, can my uncle come? He had one hunting years, blah, blah, blah." So we started going with this guy. And it's hard for me to explain to young people today. When you're 19, 20, so I hunted a lot with this guy from the time I was 20 years old to the time I was 25 or 26.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And he was probably, I thought he was old. He died a couple years ago. He's my dad's age. So at this time he was
Our age.
Yeah. Less than our age, really. To our age, yes, absolutely. In the way that they always try to impart wisdom, like when I talk to my son's kids, my son's friends, they ignore me because they think I'm some kind of nut, or my daughter's friends who think I'm, I don't know what they think. But
yeah, I know what you're saying.
I don't talk to them that much, but when I do stuff, I try to impart great wisdom. Anyhow, he would just talk about how freaking hard carrying the mail was. And I used to think, God, Jerry, why are you such a sissy? You boomers are so freaking weak. And he was talking about, we'd have a little bit of skiff of snow, and then it would melt on the top and then freeze at night where it would, you know what I mean, fall.
Oh, yeah.
I had 2 blocks worth, or I had 2 bags. I couldn't make the rest of my route. And it was like, I mean, he sat and worried about it. He was of that generation where, you know what I mean, where I've been carrying mail for 28 years and I've only had to bring bags back twice.
Yeah, yeah, because it was too dark.
God was going to come down and strike him down or something. And now it's like you go to the post office and
we can't even get people to show up to work.
Oh my God! Yeah, I mean that's the world we're in, right? Don't even go down the poor employee road. I can tell you some stories. I can tell you some crazy stories. Some of them are even true.
Okay. I'm not going to say which sub of mine did this, but every time, I've never in 25 years brought mail back because of a dog. Because a dog prevented me was out running around.
Yeah, you take the top piece off and feed it to the dog and get by him, right?
Yeah. Whatever you got to do. Okay. And I mean, I had a pit bull chasing me one time where people were driving on the street watching me try to keep this pit bull from biting me. They drove up in the yard to try to get between me and the pit bull. Okay. And I still delivered the mail. All right. I'm just saying. And
you're a better person for it.
Never well, maybe, but it never fails. Every time on my day off, there's multiple places on my route, and I'm on a new route now. I've had it for like 3 months, and there's this house where you can walk up, and the porch basically comes up to my waist. Okay,
right. Old school house. Yep.
Yeah, it's an old school house. When I step up in the yard, so the rail is at my waist, and there's where the mailbox is, and I just reach over the railing, put the mail in. Now, if you walked around and went up the stairs and walked across the porch, you could deliver the mail that way too, but there's no point when you could just walk up. So this house has 2 dogs. One is a little tiny terrier dog. One of those little tiny, just sits there and barks and barks and barks. And another one is a husky that's as blind as Stevie Wonder was in the story you were telling. Okay. So that when you walk up there, the little dog, and it can't get to you at the mailbox when you just walk up and stick the mail. Now you'd have to walk through them to get to it if you walked up on the porch.
But he sounds the alarm for old Blindy.
But the blind dog is so blind, and he must be deaf too, that I stood there yesterday, it was today, because I'm like, how, why is my sub, why are they so scared of this dog? Like, I'm like, does this husky like lunge at him or something?
Yeah.
He had no clue. I stood there, put the mail in the mailbox, put the lid down, and he's looking right through me. He can't see a thing. He must not be able to hear a thing. A little dog jipping, nothing. And I'm like, and I've told him, I said, look, man, just put the mail in the mailbox. It takes you longer to write dog out on the piece of mail than it does for you to go up there and just be careful and not.
Some people just need drama in their life. The young people just need drama. You know what I mean?
Some people are. I mean, now look, maybe I'm not scared enough of dogs.
You've been married twice, so I mean, shit.
But I mean, look, dogs have, like I said, dogs have come after me to the point where a car had to drive up in the yard to try to get the dog. They thought the dog was going to get me that bad. So, I mean, yeah, we've had carriers who've had their legs broken from dog, not in our office, but in the next city over. Legs got broken because the dog bit their leg so hard, it broke. And that's just
come on.
Oh, I'm not kidding you.
They must have fell on their ass trying to get away.
Now they're
like the jaw strength broke their leg.
Yeah, I'll just have to send you pictures.
Well, that's
terrible.
Sweet. No wonder freaking mail got screwed up 40 years ago. Y'all need to drink some more milk or something.
It's terrible. It's terrible. I mean, I feel bad. I mean, it's for those people, that's life changing, But
not getting their mail?
No, for the people who have their legs broke.
The federal employee? Oh my God, he gets on work comp and don't feel bad for them.
Oh, jeez. Oh, well, okay. All right. So enough. So here we go.
Enough of the.
I think we found an answer to the alligator question in Lake Erie.
Between crocodile and alligator?
No, remember the story about the alligator in Lake Erie?
Yeah.
Okay. Here you go. Alligator found hiding under a parked car in the Detroit suburb. So I'm guessing the alligator got chased out of Lake Erie into Detroit. Police were called to a home in a Detroit suburb to remove a 4-foot alligator found lurking underneath a resident's car. This lady said she was preparing to leave for work when neighbors alerted her to the events unfolding in her Sterling Heights driveway. Everybody's like, there's an alligator under your car. And I'm like, are you serious? And then I look, and here we go. He's laying down under my car. The Sterling Heights Police Department arrived on the scene and summoned assistance from the Reptarium. The Reptarium is a zoo in Utica. Huh. So they must especially...
Utica, New York?
No, this must be Utica, Michigan. Zookeepers captured the gator and transported it to their facility for care. Police said they believe the alligator was an illegal pet that either escaped or was set loose by its owner. In the Sterling Heights,
one man's illegal pet is another man's freedom fighter.
Anyway, this public service announcement is brought to you by the Sterling Heights Police Department. They would like to remind the public that it may seem to be cool to own an exotic pet, such as an alligator. It's still very dangerous. Furthermore, it's against city ordinance to possess one. So,
wait a second. Detroit has a city ordinance against alligators?
Apparently, it's a $500 fine.
Oh my God! The freaking mayor killed somebody at the mansion a few years ago, Kwame Kilpatrick, and they're worried about an alligator.
I thought that was the Spectre guy.
Phil Spector?
Phil Spector. Didn't he kill somebody? Wasn't that in Detroit? Or was that not?
No, that was in Hollywood. He's Detroit. Hollywood is where they make movies. Phil Spector made The Wall of Sound. in his mansion.
But didn't he do it? But didn't he do the wall of sound in Detroit?
Oh, he probably did Motown, probably screwing the brother out of money. That's how the White Devil does. But
I think Barry Gordy screwed a lot of his fellow brothers out of money.
No, don't say that. I don't want to hear that. I think Detroit's one of my favorite towns.
I worked in Detroit for about a year, or like in Farmington Hills, Novi, like a little suburb there. And
we're at the rental car place.
Yeah, at the rental car place.
Out the airport, Wayne County. Where were you at?
No, I was at a Buick Porsche dealership in Farmington.
Buick and Porsche.
It was a Buick, and then it had Porsche and Audi, and then some more exotic kind of cars.
All the Nazis in one place.
And then the guy in the back had a place they called the Toy Shop.
Whoa!
And he was best friends with Tim Allen. And Tim Allen would every once in a while show up. But you'd walk in that place, and here's where I was young, and I was not a big car guy, and I didn't take the time to appreciate that. But I mean, there was all kinds of like exotic cars in this place, and I mean, the rich of the rich would come to buy this, cars off that. He'd go find cars and redo them and stuff. But I mean, we had one time I walked out and it was what the heck was it? It was a boat on a tray with, oh gosh, it was like a Chevy Blazer, okay, pulling a boat, and it was it said Fila on the side, and then Fila, it was Grant Hills. He had brought it in there to have them detail it. Like, so part of his shoe contract was Fila gave him this like Blazer and speedboat, and it said Fila on the side. A lot of the Red Wings guys used to come and look at Porsches and bring their Porsches, and oh gosh,
I've seen where Zuckerberg and his wife have his and hers per Porsches.
Do they? It was.
Well, I just read.
When I was there is when remember the Porsche Boxster when it first came out?
Yeah.
I mean, those guys, I bet those guys had 80 of those pre-sold before they even came. I mean, that's a lot of money back in the mid to late 90s. It was like a 50, 60, I don't even know how much it was. It was supposed to be the affordable Porsche or something. Like it was like a new, more accessible to people. Grant Hill also had a Porsche there one time getting detailed. It was an automatic. How about that?
Well, buddy, if you got enough money, they'll make you anything, I heard.
An automatic Porsche.
Yeah.
Like, isn't that like sacrilegious?
I don't know. It just depends if you like to shift.
I mean, I'm not like a guy that grew up doing that, even though I grew up in the country, but you probably grew up on what would they call that, standard? Like where you shift and stuff?
Yeah, of course. You can drive a 4-speed, can't you?
Yeah, I can do it now, but I mean, I didn't grow up doing that. I never told you the story about
your stepdad's got a freaking trucking company.
Why no? Didn't I ever tell you how I learned to drive?
He told you to get your ass in that truck and go drive it, deliver it? When my dad died, I was 26. So about a year later. Whoa, stop.
Year and a half. What?
Stop.
What?
You were 26 when your dad died.
26 when my dad died.
Now, don't tell me you couldn't drive a standard until you were 27. Is that what you're going to tell me?
I had driven one once on the highway on the way back from Florida. One of those little.
I've heard. I don't know if I should disclose this on this podcast. I've heard countless stories about what a hard ass your old man was, beating your ass and being mean to you. But I've never heard anything as bad as not teaching you, his kid, how to drive a freaking 4-speed in Ohio of all places.
I don't think we ever.
That's child abuse.
Yeah, trust me. I'm glad that that would have been one more thing he would have put his boot up the side of my head for, because I couldn't get it from first to second.
You could have been Michael Schumacher. What kind of person would you have been if you'd have had the self-confidence to know that you can get in that car and drive it?
I don't think
you could have been Ricky Bobby. You're carrying the freaking mail. You could have been carrying the nation on your back as a winner. You could have been over there at Butler with Elon. You think Elon can drive 4-speed? I guarantee he can.
Oh gosh, he doesn't even know where he's at. That guy is a Fruit Loop, man. Anyway,
man, he's my hero. I didn't like him until this last couple weeks.
Okay. Anyway, yeah, I'm glad Dad didn't ever try to teach me how to drive a stick, because that would have been one more thing. He would have been disappointed in me and been an excuse to ground me.
He should have just manned up, named you Sue right out of the gate. That's what he should have done.
It'd have been easier, trust me. But anyway, so I was about 28 when I worked for a year on the farm. So my mom and stepdad got married, and they needed some help for about a year.
Your stepdad trying to figure out if you're going to work out.
Yeah. He'll tell you right now. I didn't. He'll tell you right now I did. So these two old guys, Uncle Russell, which was his uncle, who was a retired welder. Okay. When Uncle Russell retired, they told him he could take whatever he wanted from the ironworks where he worked. And the next thing you know, a flatbed
box.
No, flatbed semi-trailer showed up with every piece of scrap metal and old welding equipment he could get on that thing before he left. And we're still, I think, using pieces of that metal in the welding shop on the farm.
Oh, see, and I thought he was going to take the cash register or something on the way out.
No,
after a big sale. But
there was Uncle Russell, big dude, he's like a grizzly bear, and then a guy his name's Glenn Knapp, but they nicknamed it Tuffy because he was one of those guys that
was tough, a little wiry, tough guy.
Wiry, tough, always smoking. He'd hammer a nail through his foot or hand, and he'd just take it out and keep on, just one of those guys. So Tuffy was probably in his late 70s, and Uncle Russell was in his mid 60s or whatever. And my stepdad said, "All right, guys, you got to take him out, and you got to teach him how to drive stick." Okay, and so they didn't send me on a pickup truck. They sent me in our service truck. So our service truck was an old AEP truck, like one of those big electric, that they'd go to
bucket truck,
like a bucket truck without the bucket. It had it had an extra oil drum on it. It had all the side compartments, tools and stuff. I mean, I could have killed. I mean, it was way too big for me they might as well told me to take a semi full of grain to the in town.
Did you make it?
They had me go one time through the barnyard, and they said, "All right, let's get on the road." And they just sat there and just let me drive around the block in this great big behemoth of a thing that I could have killed 20 people at the same time in. And they just let me drive.
Did you?
What's that?
You didn't, though, did you?
I didn't. I made it.
Because they could see something deep down there that you couldn't see for yourself. They were.
No, they just didn't care. they just were old and having fun and thought it was funny that I didn't know how to drive a stick. And they were
So how did you tell them, a 27-year-old man, that you couldn't drive a stick? I mean, I told them. I mean, I go, look, I can't, because they wanted me to drive. They wanted me to be able to jump in the semi and move a semi if I needed to, or there's some of the old tractors, that were standard. I'd say all the tractors were standard. Well,
not the newer one, but I'm talking like the ones from the 50s and the 40s. We had one or two each that you'd hook up to a wagon or go mow or something with, and yeah, but they taught me all that, and then they stuck me on this track. So they told me to bring this tractor. We used to have, I don't know, 400 acres that was about 30 minutes away. Okay. And I don't even know what you would call it, but this tractor was not just like put in the clutch, first gear, second gear. It was one of those that you had to go back through the, what do you call it? The tree to get to the, you know what I'm saying? Like you did go from first to second and then second to third. You had to go like from second back to first, back to second, it was crazy. And nobody told me that. Okay.
Why couldn't you start it in fourth and take off?
Because I had no clue what I was doing with this. Okay. So I got there late and they said, hey, bring this tractor. I'd never driven this tractor. I thought it was going to, and I couldn't get it out of first or second gear. I got to second and I couldn't get it any faster. Okay. So I'm driving like 15, 20 miles an hour down this road. And
engine just screaming, RPMs wrapped out.
Oh my gosh. And I can't do anything with it. And here I got to cross a 4-lane high. I got to cross Route 23. Goes from Toledo to Columbus. Okay. It's one of those accent, or it's the crossroads in the farm country. You could, you go across. I have no way of stopping, slowing down, speeding up. And as I'm sitting in this open cab and I'm coming up and I'm like, please let this time out just right. Because if it doesn't, I'm screwed. If I make it across the first 2 lanes and get in the median and I can't keep going, if I die there in the median, it's not, I don't mean die, but I mean, if that tractor dies, it goes, I don't know how to get it started back up. And it was blind luck, man. I saw these 2 cars coming and I pushed, I put the accelerator as fast as I would go. And it was like playing Frogger. And I snaked between those 2. I mean, I thought I was dead, but I somehow made it through. And then there's a little town, like the next little town. And they had come back looking for me because I should have been there like an hour before. Like they had no idea where I was. And they found me in this little town and going through this little town. And the guy he sent back goes, get in the truck. I'll drive the truck. So one of the other farm mates drove the tractor the rest of the way. And I drove the truck back, on down there. And they just never, in fact, we were going somewhere about a month ago. My stepdad was giving me crap about that 25 years later. So there you go. There's me driving a stick.
Well,
how about that? And that's all before the days of, we didn't have we had FM radios. That's all we could talk on. And this tractor didn't have an FM. So that's how old it was. Didn't even have an FM.
The tractor didn't have an FM?
You know what I'm saying by FM? That was the version of a CB. They would have all of our equipment had FM radios, so had a channel we could talk on. Not a CB, but it's just an FM radio. If that makes sense.
Our tractor was a Farm All H. Do you know what that was?
Isn't that like with the 2 wheel, like the narrow wheel?
Yeah, ours was a narrow. Yeah, they made a wide one, which is rare. Yeah.
Yeah, Farm All H. Yeah, I know. Yeah, we have an old John Deere like that looks like one of those.
So just the fact that you had a radio or a tractor that would drive more than 3 years on the highway tells me that you're way advanced.
Well, speaking of that, we got it. So we're starting today. They started shooting the second movie, Appleseed, which I was in the studio last night getting fitted for my wardrobe because me and Chris Hahn have a big scene in it on Friday. So okay. I have to come up with something that looks like chewing tobacco because I am supposed to be chewing tobacco. So I got some, remember like the little like cans of beef jerky that look like snuff, look like Copenhagen?
Yeah.
I don't think they make that anymore. Did they stop making that? So
I think they stopped making anything that reminds kids of chewing tobacco.
Well, that stinks because now I gotta
get some candy cigarettes.
Get some roll it up in my sleeve. Look like Schneider from One Day at a Time.
Yeah.
Oh man. So I got some beef jerky yesterday and I'm gonna put it in the food processor and grind it up and mess with that, see if that works. So because I'm supposed to be chewing tobacco. But we're actually gonna use one of those old tractors on the farm for a scene too. So but I'm excited about this movie. I wasn't so sure, but I saw some of the special effects stuff that they're building in the studio last night. I think it'll be fun. And the guy who's one of the lead actors in it, said something about coming on with me and you. So we may have him on next week to talk about his acting career. He's a pretty good dude. He's a motorcycle guy, loves cruising around the country on his motorcycle.
Really?
Oh yeah, he's got great stories. His parents owned a honky tonk in a barn outside of Cincinnati growing up.
You know, it's crazy. I was about to tell the next Patreon episode. I got a story. I was going to start telling, kind of broaches on X-rated, but so it shut me down knowing my kids were going to listen to this.
So what you're saying is when we stop this episode, then we need to hit record again and record another
probably.
one?
While this Patreon, yeah.
So for Cynthia Robbins, give her money's worth as a new patron.
Yeah, I don't know what kind of girl she is, but you said Robbins, not Robinson, huh?
No, it's Robbins. No.
I thought maybe we were playing for something for Miss Robinson.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the From the Shadows podcast. Until next time, never shy away from the darkness or what may be lurking in the shadows. We are out.
Go!